episode 588 comes to you live on the 4th of November 2022. The current 20 over World Cup has seen everything. It has seen emotions, it has seen drama. You've already seen that. It has seen controversies, no balls, accusation of fake fielding, and then players slipping on the wet ground and then getting annoyed about the situation, rain affected games, rain coming, and the thought process is that one team is in a good position, then the rain relents, the other team gets a chance to correct their errors, and teams will be definitely eliminated. We already know that teams like Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, Netherlands, Ireland have already been eliminated from this particular competition. But they are the kind of teams who know that they're not your regular teams, they're not in that popular category. The 8 teams who will eventually fight for 2 spots will be the popular ones in their respective countries and all over the globe, wherever this particular sport is watched in a fanatic manner. But whoever misses out will lure on missed chances. The deluge of rains was an X factor, and then whichever team misses out, because by Sunday things will be clear which 4 teams qualify and which 4 teams book a ticket home, and then they will shed crocodile tears. We missed this opportunity, we missed this opportunity, we lost out by points, or we lost out by margins such as net run rate. Though all the matches have been close encounters of the fourth kind. And such has been the tournament that one doesn't know what will happen next. Despite results for matches today, which I will talk as this talk show progresses, one still doesn't know if those teams have qualified because there are still a couple of other teams who are yet to finish their group games. You have 3 teams competing for you have 6 teams competing for the respective positions on Sunday. You have 2 teams competing for the respective positions tomorrow. So there are at least 9 teams competing. If we presume that Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, Ireland, and Netherlands have been eliminated, they gave close calls to other teams. They put other teams in a position where those teams had to buck up, pull up their socks, and all those blah 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 stuff that you hear so often. But what has been the interesting part of this tournament is that the way in just 2 weeks' time we have reached the semi-finals. We're almost at the semi-final situation. Usually it takes another couple of weeks to reach there, but by scheduling more than 2 matches per day at the same ground, the International Cricket Board rationed the time, rationed a lot of things, rationed resources. Rains were obviously not a part of their planning, but what if it rains in the semi-finals? What will the officials do? What if it rains, it doesn't rain, it comes, it doesn't come? And what if the rain doesn't relent the entire evening? Will we say that the team with the higher points or the higher net run rate goes through because there are no reserve days for either the semi-final situation or the finals? It's going to be very interesting as to how the International Cricket Council plans this. They had to have taken rains into account, and then the matches are happening in places like Sydney and Adelaide. Sydney is sure going to be affected by rain, as it has been over the past few days. Rains can come anytime. You may have a situation where it doesn't rain and the teams win in the manner they are supposed to win. Knockout. Adelaide, it doesn't rain and the teams win in the manner they are supposed to win. So who knows what will happen over the next few days, but it will certainly rattle a few cages. But one thing is clear, that the semi-final spots are as blurry as Delhi's fictional pollution. Everyone has been talking about Delhi's fictional pollution, the AQI rising to hazardous levels, the concern for children, the debate about whether schools should close, not close, what kind of activities should stop, and what kind of debates and arguments have arisen over it, who is blaming who. But this thing happens every year. Every year around this time between November and January, this situation happens. And to make it worse, to add fuel to the fire, or as the appropriate term would be, jale pe namak chhidakna, the media doesn't help by putting on their first page AQI rises and then having interviews with teachers and students and parents and so-called experts that don't go out, wear this mask, don't do outdoor activities, stay at home, restrict your activities, restrict your vehicular activities. But this happens every year. They may as well repeat last year's conversation. This fictional debate about the fictional pollution, which has been going on for so long that after a while you cannot take it seriously. And in the same manner, the semi-final spots are open. You have 8 teams still fighting for 4th position. So at this time, even I can't say who will win. You may be in a good position with 6 points. You may be in a middling position with 4 points. But you could win your last game and go to 6 points. You could lose your last game and stay at 6 points. Such is the nature of this tournament. The net run will decide things. The points table will decide things. Brains will certainly be hovering around and looking at things. Now, the interesting thing is when you read about this fictional pollution, which is almost every day in the newspaper, and it starts in November and it goes on and on and on like a broken record, whether it's pseudo media, electronic media, print media, wherever you see this particular debate doesn't end. Yes, there's pollution, bit of fictional, bit of reality, but is there any solution to it? There may be a solution to it, but that solution doesn't have that kind of takers, because we all know where the pollution comes from. Everyone says switch to public vehicles such as taxis and autos and metros and buses, but not everyone can commute in these things, because there are times when you have to go somewhere you cannot take auto or a bus for a short distance. And then sometimes it's not possible to take a metro all the time with the crowding of the metros, the chaos that happens. No matter what the metro authorities try, it will always happen. There will be chaos, there will be running around, and their own complications of how does one buy a ticket. You have to use a smart card. You forget your smart card, you may as well not come. Private vehicles, always a debate, but then we all know where that debate goes and where that debate comes from. Even it does baffle me a little. But back to the semi-finals. Well, while Delhi's fictional pollution is not going to have a solution very soon, with authorities and other pseudo experts and other individuals arguing over what is the best way to do it, everyone is going to put in something. Then we're going to have a certain institution also put in their words. We're going to have all the 3 branches of the legislature put in something. They're going to have laws, they're going to have fines for certain activities which are not allowed. It will certainly be something which won't be straightforward, but it's a repetition. Every year this is repeated. And what could be the thing? Well, you read the newspapers, you will know. I read the newspaper today, it was the same. I read the newspaper yesterday, it was the same. AQI rises. Suddenly, poor air day. Very poor, very poor, severe, good. And we all hover it around. Calm winds adding to the issues. So while Delhi's fictional pollution may or may not have a solution very soon, we haven't had a solution for over 100 years, because I can tell you who all are to blame. We can blame people going back 100 years, 200 years, we all know where it starts. Everybody knows that. So let's not just blame the contemporary times or over the past 10 years. Let's not say that the 90s were a good time. No, they were not. They were adding to it. We did not take it seriously. Only when certain institutions start taking it seriously, then the whole world stands to notice. We already have this climate change charade happening. That climate change will affect everything, affect people. Let it affect people. No one is really going to care. Climate change has been happening for decades. Of course, polar ice melting, and unnatural weather events. Well, you can have confidence in climate change. It really doesn't matter. Of course, you can put the blame on individuals, institutions, or even beyond that. It doesn't matter. So let's not get into this fictional pollution and this climate charade debate, because it's just crocodile tears being shed over both the things, with the individuals who were concerned doing it because they have a certain agenda to fulfill, and once that agenda is fulfilled, they won't even talk about it. But we will talk about the semi-final sports now, then, and forever, which means the matches that happened this evening, a couple of hours ago, which means that New Zealand beat Ireland. They went to 7 points, and still they are not sure of a semi-final spot, because you still have England versus Sri Lanka scheduled tomorrow. And if England manage to beat Sri Lanka tomorrow, they go to 7 points. Then Australia's campaign is in trouble, which is very interesting, because when Australia won this tournament last year, they were not one of the teams to win it. We all knew England was already in that category of favorites and the top team. It's quite strange that you win a tournament in the previous year. Everyone appreciates you for it. Everyone goes gaga, as we have been for the previous champions from 2007 to 2021. We all appreciate them. We all prostrate before them. We say, wow, what a performance. Wow, a deserved performance. In the next year, something happens and they are not up for the cause, which Australia is not. I don't know what's going on. Of course, the template has changed. Teams are batting first now. Chasing is not going to be an easy thing, at least not in this part of the world. And that has been taken care of. So New Zealand beats Ireland, goes to 7 points, but they're still not sure of a semi-final spot, because it all depends on what the England-Sri Lanka match does. On the other hand, Australia were facing Afghanistan, who gave them a run for their money. Australia went on to win by 4 runs, though the demand was that they needed to win by a bigger margin of over 100 runs, but Afghanistan limited them to 168. Afghanistan fought and clawed and collapsed and stretched their score up to 164. A 4-run win will obviously add to the wins column. They will also go to 7 points, but the net run rate will come into question. If England win tomorrow, you have 3 teams with 7 points, which makes it very clear that the team with the 2 best net run rates will go through. And at this point, Australia's net run rate is not as it is because of the huge loss in the first match. Couple of matches rained out, the way teams like Ireland gave them a run for the money. Sri Lanka also put them on a stretched them till the end. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a tough situation. On the other hand, in the India-South Africa group, along with the neighbors who shall not be named and Bangladesh, all 4 can still qualify. You have a team on 6 points, you have 1 team on 5 points, and 2 teams on 4 points. So the match between the neighbors who shall not be named and Pakistan will make a huge difference as to how the other 2 teams look at their qualification. On Sunday, India has relatively easier teams to face. Zimbabwe can give a run for the money like Afghanistan and Ireland, so can't take Zimbabwe lightly in that context. Netherlands is also a team which will fight till the end. They know they have come here to fight and play. They haven't come here to enjoy the sights. They can enjoy the sights on a private tour. I think despite Afghanistan, Netherlands, Ireland being knocked out, they have given these teams a run for their money, and it has put them in such a situation that you have to depend on your own results, you have to depend on the results of other teams to have any chance of making it to the knockout stages. How many times do we see such a World Cup? Because last year it was such a scenario that once a team lost two matches, they were out. One team was winning 5 out of 5, the one team had won 4 out of 5, and then South Africa lost on net run rate last year. They were tied on points, but they lost on net run rate. Imagine that. Imagine losing on something as unimportant as net run rate, but that's the way things are. That's the way we look at things. Can't say if it's wrong or right, but that's the way this sport is played, and that's the way this sport will always be played. So once again, 8 teams wrestling for 2 spots. Who are the 8 teams? England, Sri Lanka, Australia, New Zealand, India, neighbors who shall not be named, Bangladesh, South Africa. Points are equalized, net run rate comes into play. India wins on Sunday, then we may have a situation where you will have a 3-way tie between South Africa, Bangladesh, and neighbors who shall not be named. South Africa's first match, if South Africa managed to beat Netherlands, they go to 7 points. They can go through. If India win against Zimbabwe, they go to 8 points and they top the table. If Bangladesh or neighbors win one match, then they will still be at 6 points. So it becomes like the situation that both South Africa and India need to win their last match, and they know that you cannot take teams like Netherlands and Zimbabwe for granted, given that Zimbabwe have given most teams a run for the money in this particular tournament. So I do not know what will happen. While the solution to pollution is still being debated by a host of pseudo experts and other bodies, by Sunday evening, this time, we'll know which teams have qualified and which teams have been eliminated, which team will sport a big smile, and which teams will be shedding crocodile tears, proving on missed chances or the fact that what happened, we were in such a good position. That's the way this tournament has been. I have no words to describe it except that close encounters of the fourth kind. Episode 589 will come to you live on the 7th of November 2022.